Hey there, and welcome to the Reclamation Room. I'm Ashana, and I'm so glad you're here. This is a space for women reclaiming themselves after narcissistic abuse. If you've ever felt like you were too much, not enough, or both at the same time, you're in the right place. I created this podcast because I know what it's like to lose yourself in overgiving, overperforming, and still wondering why it never felt like love. I've walked through trauma, toxic relationships, and the long road of self-reclamation, and I'm here to walk with you. In this podcast, we'll explore what it means to come home to yourself after the confusion and chaos of narcissistic abuse. Some episodes will be solo, others will include guest interviews. All of them will be honest, grounded, and deeply compassionate. So, whether you're just realizing what you've lived through, or you've been on this path and you're ready for the next layer of your healing, you are welcome here. This is not about perfection. This is about reclamation.
Hey guys, we're back. I'm here with a friend of mine, newfound friend, Kate Gregory. We found one another in yet another of my podcasting adventures, and Kate graciously waited months for me to respond to her. Coincidentally, when I was looking at your bio, Kate, you shared that you help women overcome perfectionism. And I was like, that is fitting because it took me a long time to get back with you. So, number one, thank you for that. And number two, I'm wondering if you can share with us kind of I don't want to do the typical who are you, but more of a like, how did you get here and how did that affect who you are today?
How did I get here? I help women with their hormones. And one of the things that drives our hormones is our thyroid. I was born without a thyroid. That kind of played into my story later on, basically with like medical negligence and gaslighting and, just kind of bad experiences. I had PCOS in my 20s. And so I had secondary infertility back to the thyroid thing. And that's like a really shortened version of like I experienced something that when I woke up to the fact that I didn't understand my body at all. I didn't understand ovulation and my power as a woman, and that it wasn't a burden to be a woman, and like I had all these superpowers basically. And that that information was like withheld from me, and that if I had known it, I would have chosen different things and I would have seen myself differently, and I would, so many things, right? Once I began to learn about my body and learn about my cycles and what I could do to make them better and more regular and just to feel better, I think like my personality and also how I was raised is kind of like missionary. Like I have to tell everybody, like everyone, every woman must know, like it's not a burden to be a woman. It's actually a superpower. And like, you don't, the fact that you're suffering it's not your destiny. You weren't predestined to just like live in a broken body. And so, yeah, I've never answered it that way exactly, but became my mission, just like to all my friends. And then eventually I was like, well, why don't I just make my message even bigger and farther reach and get paid to do it, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So you've had, this is exciting to me. I'm like, ooh, I'm tingly. So you have your own hero's journey of sorts, or I guess we could say heroine. So yeah, I guess I jumped right past the what Kate does and why she's here on the show today. So in short, in a nutshell, you help women with hormone health, which encompasses so many things. And I have so many questions after listening to your story. So go back a little bit. You were born without a thyroid. What does that mean for like your health moving forward?
So your thyroid is really like the engine of your body. Like it controls your metabolism, but also like how everything grows, how your brain works, how just everything grows. And I was very lucky to be born um, in a university hospital where that was just beginning to be tested at birth. If you have a baby today, that's just part of the normal blood spot. But at the time, it was rare. And so, if it had not been tested at that time, by the time they noticed anything was wrong with me, it could have been like permanent brain damage, like I just would have been a different person, right? So I've taken Synthroid my entire life and always had to be like monitored for, because I was growing. So my dosage needed to change and they needed to make sure like things were going okay with puberty and all of that. And then later when I was pregnant the first time, my dose was like doubled. And my endocrinologist was like, I've never had anybody on this high of a dose that wasn't like 400 pounds, and I wasn't 400. I've never been 400 pounds. I've always been like naturally thin. So anyway, I was just pregnant and my liver was really struck. Now I know things like looking back, like my liver was really struggling to process that synthetic thyroid hormone. And then later when I weaned my first and I was kind of thinking about having another baby, my dosage was still kind of higher than it normally would be. And so my period never came back. And I was just like waiting and waiting. And like that was when I started doing some research and started tracking my temperatures and all of these things. And I've always been kind of more like holistically minded, but I have had to rely on doctors for help with this, right? Like there's no I needed to replace my thyroid because it's crucial. Anyway, I went to a fertility endocrinologist because I thought they're an endocrinologist, so they know about thyroids, and they're a fertility doctor, so they'll know why my period's missing. And she was negligent, and she took my labs and she just like accused me of under eating and said, here's the thousands of dollars that you can spend to get pregnant again. And um, I followed my gut and did not move forward with that. I just was like, I'm not broken. Like I don't believe that I'm broken. Something's up and I'm gonna figure it out. And then I eventually did. I mean, it was just something as simple as my thyroid medication needed to go down.
That was it. That was all that you needed.
That was all I needed. I
Mm.
could, I think in the process of that too, I was learning things like I got healthier too, but
Okay, yeah.
really it was like she was just like, well, your thyroid's not too low. But I had all these symptoms of hyperthyroidism. Like I was rail thin. Like I was just thinner than I'd ever been. And I had anxiety, which I'm not prone to. And I had insomnia and I had a racing heart. And I just thought like, I guess I'm healthy. I don't know, like I always was trained to look for hypothyroid symptoms, which are like weight gain and brain fog and being really sleepy and exhausted and heavy periods, like things like that. So I was having the opposite, and I just never thought that that was happening.
Well, I mean, you're also not like you didn't go to school for that. That's why you have doctors who you can
Right,
not to be,
right. I was,
no.
I was like trained. I was relying on them to tell me if things were okay on my labs, and then my endocrinologist like immediately saw the labs and was like, oh, these are way off. And like, if you got pregnant right now, you'd probably miscarry or you'd have some fetal abnormality or something, to think I was gonna like, I was told like, you need to do all these things to force your body to get pregnant. And that probably would have been thousands of dollars spent and then have a miscarriage.
Yeah.
Unnecessary, trauma to me. But, as I asked around, it's like nobody had nobody had answers. Nobody, everybody else was as clueless as I was.
Oh my gosh.
So yeah. And then my world was opened up, and so although what I think is really relevant to your audience is what I found once I started like working as a holistic hormone practitioner for women, was that so many women were burnt out, and that's coming from perfectionism and all or nothing thinking and zero boundaries and just like not owning your own body, like being basically disembodied and accepting that this is just how everyone.
Right. And accepting other people's opinions of what you should do or what is right for you and looking to an outside authority
Yes.
because we become out of touch with our inner authority, right? Okay, oh my gosh. I'm really invested in your story now. Okay, so between your first and second baby was when this happened.
Hmm.
So was this when you got into more holistic and just kind of like dug in and made changes in your life and it went from there?
Yeah. I mean, to tie in, we're all in, and this is not a professional.
Yeah.
Let's just talk about the clinical things, but like I had my second baby in 2020 and it was a girl. So I had a boy first, then I had a girl. And at the same time, it was also like a feminine awakening for me
Mm.
of like, yeah, I grew up in like a patriarchal, high control religion. And all of a sudden, I was just like, how is it that, I'm like nursing my baby, like, I'm just like, how is it that God is like just a man? Like I'm everything to my babies, but female deity like doesn't exist or isn't important, or, if it does exist or whatever. So yeah, I think all of it kind of like met in the middle around that time where I was like, birth control is something I'm never going to go on again. And I'm going to be like the most literate person about my body because I can't rely on somebody else all the time to do that for me. And um yeah, just like subtle changes, I think, shifts, but like a really growing curiosity inside of me to just like learn everything that I could. Just reading all the time, listening to tons of podcasts. I just felt like a sponge. I just wanted to absorb both like the deep understanding of women's bodies, but also like the spiritual like wounds against myself, right?
That's a good way to put it. Oh, oh my gosh, I love this so much. I'm on day 20 of a juice fast right now, which as of today is the longest that I've ever had a juice fast before because my last 21 day I ended at 19 days. And I realized that the first portion of this fast, I was just consuming like documentaries and other people's experiences and just, I don't know,
Mm-hmm.
immersing myself in it just to get over that initial hump of like, you have to have willpower to do this. And then there was the moment where I went more inward. And it's like, I'm done consuming information now. I need to figure out my own experience and feel what that means for me, which was like, am I going to continue? Because I didn't have a goal on this fast. It was just like, how do I feel? So I love that we're having this conversation now because it's very timely. And I'm also wondering, have you looked up the spiritual meaning? I don't want to use the word meaning. The thyroid spiritually.
Yeah, your voice. I think about so many women. I mean, like, there's statistics vary. Some say 1 in 8, and some say 1 in 5 women will develop a hypothyroid, or a thyroid disorder in their life. Now,
Stop it.
yeah, it's
That's a
very, and
lot.
yeah. So it's like, I was like, I remember my mom telling me this when I was a kid, like, you're lucky in that, like, doctors already know you have a thyroid issue. Like, up front, but like a lot of women, they're exhausted, they're gaining weight even though nothing's changed with their diet and exercise. They just feel totally like spent. That's kind of like the biggest one. Maybe they're also constipated, their hair is falling out, their skin is dry. I could go on, but exhaustion is a big one with thyroid. But they go to their doctor and they're told like your thyroid's fine. But back to your question, because I think it's really relevant to like there are lots of like actual mechanical reasons why our thyroids are like slowing down and we're struggling with this, but I also find when I'm working with my clients that have specifically hypothyroidism that they have a history of like people pleasing and not, speaking up. And we have long conversations about like how do I say what I need without being a bitch? Like to them it's very difficult to assert themselves and to use their voice their whole life. Interestingly enough, like going back to just voice in general, like when I was pregnant with my first baby, so I'm a singer. I've always sang. It's like breathing to me. But when I got pregnant the first time and I was like very pregnant, I stopped being able to sing. Like I could not sing above like a middle C. And every time I even tried, I would just break down crying because it was like, it's like if you can't walk all of a sudden and you try to walk, it's like devastating. And even my speaking voice, if you listen to the sound of my voice, speaking voice prior to 2017 is like different.
Like it's still different now than it was then.
My speaking voice is still different. It's forever lower. And it took me like a couple of years. It was actually around 2020 when I started like using my singing voice again. Like literally like 2.5 years where I just kind of avoided it because every time I would, and it used to, I mean, I'm surprised I'm not crying right now. Literally like last week I was talking about this and like sobbing again because
Why did it happen?
hormones can change your voice as well as prolapse, like because where your diaphragm is, like I trained with like this understanding of my body, it's like using a muscle and then that muscle like changes location and you suddenly don't have that control anymore. And I don't know what metaphysical thing was at play as well, right? But after I had my baby and I had like some uterine prolapse, which is very common, not talked about enough. But I think, yeah, I just had to like completely relearn how to.
I feel like I'm getting off track so much. I'll get us back.
Yeah, we are.
So can you sing? You can sing now, but it's differently than it used to be. So it was never ever again the way that it used to be.
Yeah, I mean, I think if I worked at it a lot more, I could get better. Like I said, I didn't sing for like 2.5 years. It's like exercising something. So no, it's not the same. I can't hit the same notes that I used to hit, but I've expanded my range quite a bit in the last 5 years.
Wow. I just, well, number one, I'm so sorry because I used to be like an avid reader. Like ask anyone who knew me, and I would have multiple books in my bag at any given moment. That would like my life was reading. And somewhere around the time that I moved to Arizona with my girlfriend, I just stopped reading. And then my first marriage, I didn't read. It just wasn't there anymore. And now like I'll read nonfiction, but I think I've read 3 fiction novels in the past like 15 years.
Hey, you and me are the same.
I'm like,
That's
what?
literally a muscle that I've like been exercising this year. I've been like, I'm gonna read a fiction book.
Yes.
But here's my recommendation, Anne of Green Gables.
Really?
You read it?
No, I've never read that.
It's
Such a
just like
classic.
it's just happy. It's just happy.
I'm gonna
Because
have
I
to.
read, and maybe you're gonna cut all this book stuff out, but I read The Nightingale, which
Okay.
was a really good book, but like heartbreaking because it's like about World War II and these women and what they did. So it's a really amazing book, but it's like, you're gonna
Heavy.
sob. But Anne of Green Gables is just like, oh my gosh, like reclaiming pleasure and joy and whimsy and just like enjoying the natural world. And that's like actually like what I'm all about. Like what
Yeah.
I really believe is an antidote to what causes our hypothyroidism, right? It's like not allowing ourselves to have pleasure and safety and like stretching out the feel good moments as
Yeah.
much as we can.
Interesting. I may leave this in as a tip for women because we do have women who listen to the show who it's like categories almost. So, like, of course, we'll have women who are in narcissistic relationships as we speak. And it's like, this is a lifeline. I need to hear this. Like, I may not even be ready to leave. And I acknowledge that. But I'm starting to learn about what I'm going through. And then we have women who maybe have gotten out and they're still like rebuilding, rebirthing themselves. And then there's also women who they don't really feel like they've ever been in that kind of relationship or been abused in that way. And maybe the trauma was a long time ago, but it doesn't quite feel like trauma because I thought that was normal. And yet they have these symptoms and they're like, oh, wait, this resonates. So this is really interesting because there's an interplay here, I think, between themes of like, it was fascinating how the thyroid is the voice and 1 in 5 women, and just thinking about that, like the implications and the voice, like,
Yes.
holy cow. So your doctors said that everything seemed fine.
Yeah. Yeah, the fertility doctor said, "Well, you're just exercising too much and you're not eating enough. You're just too skinny," is what she said. I was like, "Well, no, I eat a lot and I only exercise 3 times a week." Like she didn't ask me, right? Like that was the number
Mhm.
one. She just accused me and said I was too skinny, and I said, "Do you want me to gain weight?" You
Tell me
know,
what to do and I'll do
I
it.
will
How
gain
do I fix
weight, right?
this?
I'm thinking root cause. Oh, if I'm
Mhm.
that means that I got to do something about it. And she totally brushed it off. She was just like, that can be hard. So, here's what we're gonna do. And we're gonna run this test to make sure you don't have 5 babies at once and whatever. And I was like, you know, definitely don't want that.
That escalated
um,
quickly.
yes. And I mean, I really attribute it to my gut, just my womb, just being like, this isn't right. I mean, and years prior to that, in 2014, I went like 9 months without my period, and I had this horrible acne all over my chin, very like classic PCOS.
And the chin can
And
be the liver too, right?
what?
The chin can be the liver also.
Yes, yeah. And then like later in my pregnancy, I had like the worst acne ever. Also kind of a liver
Wow.
toxic
I'm so
load
sorry.
thing. Yeah, it's all right. Get me now. Um, but anyway, so I had those classic like PCOS things, and I went to the dermatologist. She spent 30 seconds with me and said, "Here's a cream to put on it." And I just, again, instinctually was like, it's not about a cream. There's a reason. And I've also been missing my period, and I didn't really care because, at the time you're like, great, I don't have to have a
Yep.
period, but I feel all these other things and I can't ignore my face. And then I got like a diagnosis of PCOS, and here's metformin, and I was like, I'm gonna see what else I can do to like improve my blood sugars. Learning just enough to like get me by, but not really anything that solidified in me like, well, I'm not broken, it's not a burden to be a woman, and these are all things I can understand without a medical degree, you
Yeah.
know but going back to themes of like our physical health and our mental and emotional and spiritual health, like they're just not separate.
Yeah.
They've been separated by Western medicine saying you have this pain, it's because you need this medicine, not because you're holding on to anger, or you have no boundaries, you have no voice, or you are trying to behave like a man, and so your like female hormones are dropping off. And that's
Yes.
what PCOS is. It's androgen dominant hormones in a woman. And so you might grow facial hair, kind of a thing. It's like, for me, I connected to, yeah, you're trying to operate in the world like a man and not like a woman. And your body is like, okay. Well,
Yep. You're masculine. Here's
mhm.
some masculine. There are going to be so many people, I'm sure, who would hear this and be like, excuse the fuck out of me. Like, what did you just say? And I don't know. I'm kind of here for it because it's like if women are hearing this and they're like, I've tried everything and the creams aren't working, the potions aren't working. Like when you get to that point, I think you become more open to hearing other ways of trying things. And I love how you said that all these parts of our health, they're not separate. It reminds me of something I heard, and I'm going to butcher this,
Mhm.
but it's some sense of like tribal community here where the medicine or wise man or woman, when a member was sick, they treated the tribe.
Mm.
They didn't just treat the person. And it just, I don't know, hearing you say that about PCOS, I'm just like, that makes so much sense. So, okay, I want to hear in terms of what you do as a holistic practitioner. Let's say women are listening to this and they are experiencing symptoms. And I think a big one that I hear even my friends talk about is the fatigue. Just this like crushing fatigue where it almost feels like there's no will to do anything. Now we're like popping Alani's all day and, caffeine and chaos. What have you learned to help these women?
Yeah, and I think something that goes hand in hand with that is like PMS, is this like rage or irritability, the week before a period in particular. When someone comes to me and they're like, I'm exhausted, eh, I'm like, well, your body is sending you a message. Our hormones are just messengers to us.
Mhm.
And everybody's kind of learning about hormones, and it's like kind of pop culture right now to talk about hormones, but hormones are not like really the root most of the time, right? They're just the thing that pops up that we can't ignore. So like our thyroid, that, thyroid hormone kind of, plays a big role in our metabolism, in our energy, and our sex hormones and all of that. So if you're dealing with fatigue and exhaustion, like I want to say, like, I know not in the same way that a doctor would say, well, are you getting enough sleep? But really, like, are you getting enough rest? Like, why is your body like forcing you to slow down? Because that's really what's usually happening, is that at some level, you're going full speed all the time until you reach the point where your body was like, we're gonna die if if you don't slow down. So your thyroid will literally slow itself down. You can be making enough thyroid hormone and it does this thing called reverse T3, and it's like I send it back. Like I'm depriving you. This can happen if you're like under eating, if you're not eating enough food, your metabolism, it makes sense. It's like, okay, well, we have to survive on less food, so we're going to slow down.
Yeah.
And that's also going to come with exhaustion and like other things too, but this is survival.
Mhm.
Or sometimes it's literally like you're a mom and you're like, Sally down the road, like she's got the same amount of kids as me, but her house is always clean and she's always volunteering, and her husband, she makes amazing food and all this stuff. And this like constant wheel of comparison that like never shuts up,
Yep.
or this inner critic, or maybe, and usually our inner critic is the voice of somebody else that's been in our life. Maybe it's a parent, maybe it's a partner, but we adopt those mean things tearing us down. And so we're at war internally. We're trying to do everything, we're trying to be everything. And so when I, you know, approach a woman or when a woman approaches me that's struggling with that, I'm like, okay, well, in what ways can you actually stop trying to push through this?
Mhm.
And, I've been known to give the doctor's orders of you need to take a bath like every night this week and like enjoy it and not have your phone, like just be present in hot water, and what can you do that, I know you feel like you're overwhelmed with like everything that you have to do, and that you can't enjoy anything or have like a moment of rest or peace or joy without having completed your
Until those
list.
things are done. Yeah.
But what if you flipped it on its head and said, I'm not allowed to touch my to-do list until I've had 30 minutes of like pleasure, like joy.
How many women resist this when you say these things to them?
All of them.
That is
So everything,
revolutionary.
what
That's revolutionary.
is, everything will fall apart if I don't XYZ, if I don't take care of everything for myself. Well, you know what? You are falling apart right now. And if you don't address this and become a human again that has joy and does things for herself and has self-compassion, if you don't do those things, eventually you'll break down to the point where you can't do any of that stuff.
Yeah.
And then
Because
when my
bodies,
clients like finally, follow my advice, they're like, "Oh my gosh, like I've been overwhelmed when I didn't need to be. I could still get a lot of things done, but then I also didn't have to uh whip myself for not doing all of it. And also, the world didn't end and I feel so much better, right? Like I have more energy to do things like, one was like press these flowers that I had, thought was a fun craft idea, but just never had the energy to do it. It's like when you operate from a place of overflow, from a full cup, you're not going to become a selfish bitch. Like you're going to just naturally, like what's beautiful about you is that you will end up still serving others, but you'll be like, but it's coming from a full cup rather than empty, dry cup. That's making you exhausted because you're never slowing down. You're never stopping. You're never giving yourself grace and enjoying your life. You're kind of like, once this gets over, then I'll enjoy it. Then I'll enjoy it.
This is so important. And I know that like we hear this, and of course we scroll on Instagram or Facebook, or I think TikTok is the big one now. I'm not on TikTok, but my daughter keeps telling me I should be. But I mean, there's so many people are saying these things, that like this isn't brand new information. But I think the way that you're delivering it, like you're slowing it down and you're like, here's the thing. Like I'm not trying to get the quick scroll. I'm not trying to capture your attention for the 2-second span that we have these days. Like, listen, I've been through this. This is serious. I can help you. And I think that I don't know, there's something about like the real person aspect of it, especially I think when women hear your story. I think what's speaking to me the most is just this. You've said it twice now. I'm trying to remember how you put it. It's about womanhood and not like hating that you're a woman. I forgot how you worded it. But I think that we internalize these things, and if we're not doing all of the things, then we're not woman enough, or we're not, I don't know. And then when it comes to actually like stepping into being a woman, we don't want to do that either.
Yes.
Oh man.
Here's another idea to chew on. One of the most like magical, if you don't want to have kids, if not so much, like I think you can still absorb this and say that it's still true, that it's fucking amazing and magical that we can create human life. But when we do it, when we do the most like magical, like creative thing, all we're doing is receiving. Like, yes, you build the baby's fingers and toes and organs and all of that amazing stuff, but it's not cognitive. It's not, or is it not cognitive? It's not something you're thinking about and like deliberately doing. You're like, all right, today is toes, today is a heart. Like literally all you did was receive the sperm. That's what I'm saying. You received something and then your body like magically, amazingly like created life. So, but when I talk about like how good are most women at receiving, somebody brings you something, like somebody like does a favor for you and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry to inconvenience you. I'm so sorry I had to call you to ask for help with this. Like I shouldn't need help. I shouldn't, like we suck at receiving and like relaxing into being served. And yet, like if we were good at it, like what could we be capable of? Like what could we create if we just like changed to like gratitude, like thank you. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. This is really relevant too, because a lot of the women listening, I know that a lot of women that I've spoken with have shared that whenever someone is giving and it's time to receive, there's a fear of trusting that because of the way that that's happened in the past and how it's been harmful and hurtful in the past. And I love your story of I just decided to step into my own power then. And that started with me getting curious, and it started with me learning what I could. And then from there, it sounds to me like you've built your own belief systems and bolstered that around the information that you took in, scientific information, medical information. Now you've branched out and there's spiritual information, and now you have this beautiful philosophy. And it all started with you were being gaslit too. You were trusting someone else's authority too. That's so hopeful.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for summarizing it that way. And I think you're totally right on the nose, in that like, kind of back to what I was saying, like we need to learn to give to ourselves, like receive self-compassion. That's actually like the first lesson I give you in my program is like, here's how your hormones work. Okay. Like here's what ovulation is and all of that you need to know. Second is self-compassion. Because without self-compassion, all the other stuff that I'm going to teach you is just going to become another to-do, another overwhelm, another
thing you failed at.
thing you.
Yeah. That you
So,
can beat yourself up over.
right. So the majority of my coaching then too, because it's like, there's trainings, but then there's also coaching is like, okay, yeah, you learned a new thing this week about food or about exercise, movement, or about sleep. Like you learned that and you probably identified like, oh crap, I've been shooting myself in the foot in this area. But like, how can you talk to yourself? How can you practice talking to yourself in a way that allows you to change and to grow and to not beat yourself up when you don't follow the advice that you just heard? But because that's a growth mindset, that's like, and so you have to learn to receive that from yourself. And it looks like talking to yourself, literally, like, and giving yourself soothing touch and things like that, right? Because if we haven't experienced that before, that can be extra hard. Sometimes I give my clients words. Here's what you can say back to this part of you that's mad, that's trying to control, that's trying to make you perfect to protect you. You can thank them for showing up and caring and trying to make things better. And then you can let them know, like, that's actually not helpful. It's actually making things harder for me when you talk to me, when you call me names and when you say these horrible things about me. And actually, I am a good person. I'm doing my very best. And I have a lot of things to unlearn. But, I care about me. I care about us. And, I need love and support right now. And then you can give yourself a hug or just some kind of, enjoyable, comforting thing. This is how we reparent ourselves.
Yeah. It's funny when I look at my older children who unfortunately and sadly, and a part of me doesn't like talking about this and saying this, but it's true. They didn't receive that much affirmation from me because I didn't know. And I look at my 5-year-old now and he will talk himself up. He will be like, "Oh man, I carried that. I am so fast. I'm strong. I did great on that." And I'm like, "Yeah, you did. Yeah, you did. You're so cool." And I think I think it makes sense that we don't know how to do these things because we weren't given these things, you know? And so of course it feels lame at first, but it's like, hey, if you're not going to do it, nobody else is going to do it. I love that. Okay. Let me see. Is there anything about what you do that we haven't covered that you would like to share?
Well, I think the only thing that I haven't talked about is, something that I enjoy as a practitioner is that I can run labs. So it's not just kind of like health coaching, but really it's like custom built around like what's going on for you. Like I'm taking an extensive health questionnaire, like what is your life like, and I'm actually going to read it, unlike maybe your doctor, but also drawing some labs to see like a much better picture. I'm looking at optimal ranges, like how would you actually want to feel good, not just like what's acceptable and what's normal for right now, but it also gives me a clue sometimes as to like what's driving it. And like I said, it's not always just like a medical, like you're short on these minerals, right? Because I have to look at like, well, why are you burnt out of sodium and potassium? It's because you've been stressed for so long. And I think your audience in particular, having trauma, having these unhealthy relationships, once you realize that that is also driving symptoms, it's not that I'm saying, hey, this is all in your head, but it's like, it's not just one more thing that's wrong with me. It's like, okay, how can I start rebuilding and replenishing and reclaiming myself? So yeah, sometimes I'm like thinking back on my answer, like, is that just like a huge run-on sentence? But
It's okay. So Do you draw the labs like yourself or do you like order them out?
I order them. Yeah. So I
Okay.
work with women all over and I just send them with a requisition to like LabCorp. And I also do a hair tissue mineral analysis because I mean, I could talk all about that, but there's a lot of things that are not measurable through our blood and it can really help me get to the root of, different patterns that are going on and how to give your body what it needs so that everything else can fall into place. So you do that at home, you go to a lab to get the blood draw. I look over all those things and then we start together, both like downloading the knowledge you need to know what your body was meant to operate as, especially for those kind of being in that space of like, I'm ready to reclaim myself. I'm ready to have new boundaries and have self-compassion and do things for me and operate from a full cup. Like that's where I'm here, holding your hand, helping you make the messy change.
This is fascinating to me. I'm like, what is she asking for with the hair and the tissue? Like, oh my God, what are you testing for? This is so cool. So let me make sure that I have it right. This is women who are experiencing symptoms of thyroid dysfunction.
Yes, very often. That's a big one. I also, I mean, tying into my own story, like PCOS as well, but thyroid or adrenal dysfunction, because they're really kind of tied in together, especially for you've been in a high control relationship or religion or whatever that
Yeah.
has burnt you out trying to be good enough, trying to be worthy.
This is
Yeah.
fascinating. Like,
Yeah. Yeah. So much like a health coach in a lot of ways, but I'm really grateful to be able to have that ability to order labs. And I also, did other training in hair tissue mineral analysis, learning how to interpret and how to create protocols based on that. So also, advanced training in health and behavior mindset change so that I could actually like not just tell you a million things that you should be doing better, but like I've talked about, like actually follow through and not give up because you have this all or nothing mindset.
yeah, you're so humble. I love it. You're like, and I have this and no big deal, but okay, so I hope that anyone who is experiencing any of the above, which for anyone listening, and when we say adrenal, we mean like the stress response, those little glands that sit above your kidneys, and you've had high cortisol levels for a long time, and you're drinking coffee and you're stressed out. Now you're tired all the time, and your little guys are just trying to catch up, and they just can't, and everything's pumping, and you're done. You're depleted. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. If you
So
wake up in the morning after 9 hours of sleep and you feel like you could sleep another nine, like that's a good sign that your adrenals are calling out sick.
side note, I would love to host a class of yours on my platform for women who go through my 12-week program as like hey, if you also have this and you want to work with her more.
Yeah.
So, okay, so for anyone listening who isn't doing my program and they want to just reach out and find you, because I don't have you hosted there yet, but I'm manifesting it one day.
Yes.
Where can people find you?
So the best place to find me is on Instagram at Queen Bee Hormone Health. That's my company name, my tag. Or you can email me. If you're not on Instagram, you can email me, Kate at queenbeehormonehealth.com, or just look at that website, obviously, and find any of my offerings there. And, I've just had a really good time. Like, thank you. You've been an awesome host. You're like making me blush. You're just like, this is so cool. I'm like,
It is. It's fascinating.
it really like energizes me to talk to people about it face to face because a lot of times like I'm talking into the void like on Instagram and I'm like I've been talking about this for 2 years nonstop and everybody probably knows it but
Does
then
anybody even care anymore?
does anybody even care, but then you have a conversation on a podcast and people are like what, yes,
Mhm.
so I just appreciate you as an audience and as a thank you to you and your audience. If you are nodding along, like she said, if you wake up just feeling totally exhausted, burnt out, and you're not sure where to get started, no matter where you are in your relationship, in your journey, I have a 7-day adrenal reboot. And so just like over the course of 7 days, I'm going to be sharing kind of a microcosm of my full program of like the key pieces to start rebuilding and working from a full cup, like we talked about, and just having those bite-sized things you can do over 7 days to reclaim yourself. So for your audience, using code RECLAIM, 20% off of that course. But it's less than the cost of dinner right now. So, you might as well, I'll share that link with you. And if you're not interested in that, but you just want to understand your hormones, I have a free private podcast that you can also sign up for. That's just like understanding ovulation and just all of those basics that we were never adequately taught.
No, we were not. What's the name of that podcast?
It's called Know Your Body Better Than Your Doctor Does.
I love that.
Based on my experience of getting bad advice. I love I'm not like hating on doctors, truly.
Yeah.
They're really important, especially for acute care, surgery, things like that. But when it comes to hormones, they weren't given the tools at all. So, it's not their fault they're failing us, but unfortunately they are.
Mm-hmm.
So
I said that about nutrition too. They only got like maybe a semester of nutrition.
yeah. So yeah, exactly. And then, you can follow me on Instagram. That's where you'll just find me and my tips and education and stuff like that. So I would love to have you there.
Awesome. Well, this has been great for me. I hope everyone else enjoyed it as much as I did. I'm going to include those links in the show notes. So we'll have your website, we'll have the code RECLAIM for your course. I wish I would have found this course a few years ago. Alas, I did not, but here we are. Yeah, and I would love to have you back on one day just to talk about this whole womanhood situation here because we could dig into that.
We really could.
Okay.
Yes. Okay. Have a great night.
Bye.
Thanks for spending time in the Reclamation Room. Be sure to follow or subscribe so you never miss an episode. And if this supported you, consider sharing it or leaving a review. You're not alone, and your reclamation is sacred.